welcome to the FSF Popcast live show. Holy cow, welcome to episode 6 review of the Acolyte. Hello, kids and cadets. I'm Tim. I'm your host, and I'm joined by producer John, the lead of our RPGs every month. So that's why you see FSF Popcast _RPG. You'll find that on all the socials. Go give that a follow, and he's sharing stuff out there. But yeah, we got lots to talk about today.
So much to discuss.
So much to discuss, because like we said, it is the Acolyte episode 6 review. Now, although this episode may not have been as flashy with the super cool lightsaber fights like we had in episode 5, which is still, that's like peak Star Wars. Episode 5 was amazing. But we still have lots of spoilers ahead of us, guys. So if you haven't watched episode 6, you're welcome to stay around. We'd like you to stay around. But if spoilers are a thing that you try to avoid, this is your one warning. Moving forward, it will be nothing but spoilers. So,
yep.
Anything to add before we jump into the spoilers?
Not at the moment. No, I think we're ready to go. There's a lot. There's more than people think.
Yeah,
there really is.
Yeah. We have 4 comments from Kathleen real quick. We will bring those comments in, Kathleen, as we get to the items. First off, we're going to start right off with Mr. Muscles, Darth Guns, Senior Swole, whatever you'd like to call him. Chimere is, we wake up, we start off with Osha waking up in the cave, and she realizes that she's by herself. She goes out and she kind of sees that Chimere is off and running around, and is about to get a little bit of some nakedness. Gonna go bathe off in this water.
I mean, you look at that. There's some dirt and some grime sticking to the scar tissue. You know, he's got some char from where he killed all the Jedi. You know, he's got Jedi bits stuck to him. It's kind of gross. You know, you need to kill him.
Those are the hard ones to get off. The Jedi bits.
Yeah,
bits and bots. You got to bathe them off. At some point. But we have this country, this planet that he's on. It's an unknown planet. It does look a little bit like Octu, where Luke Skywalker went to. It also looks like a certain Sith planet, where Cortosis was found and mined during the EU times. Kathleen says, I was a bit mad that it was a Disney show. We missed the booty chance.
Yeah, this is not Amazon Prime or HBO, so we have to keep it family friendly.
Well, I was honestly surprised, considering that Disney is making a push towards more adult programming, that this wasn't, Disney was scandalous to show ankles.
Hey, you got your booty wrong for a whole 2 months. You're good. Okay.
So we have him there, and then we have Osha following him out, and he gives this great speech to her.
Oh my gosh!
Which triggers her anger, and she grabs the lightsaber and threatens to kill him with it.
Mm-hmm. And he seems totally calm about the whole thing. He knows
what
he's doing.
Oh, he is so slick. He is so sly in all this, and everything that he's doing. He's talking to her about what her feelings are, what she's gone through, and things that he says that he's felt too. And during the course of this conversation, we don't have a full understanding yet, but starting to feel that at one point Chimere was a Jedi, at least a Padawan.
Yeah, he mentions that, we get into this a little
tossed aside.
Yeah, and that, it's like the helmets that we wore when we were younglings. When we were younglings.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yes. Has either joined me or let me put my clothes on me. Made me feel comment number 1.
And kudos to Osha for maintaining eye contact.
Not all the time. Those eyes did travel south a couple times. She's
still human.
She's still human, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, there was a fair amount of eye contact there. I was impressed.
And Kathleen says that I ship Chimere and Osha. I'm not so sure that we won't see that at some point, but it did not happen this episode. But
Yeah,
it's
but that's a gnarly looking scar on his back too.
it is, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I have thoughts.
Ooh, you've been thinking.
I did the thinking in this.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got some thoughts about that. But yeah, this whole conversation between the two of them, and then when he's holding the lightsaber underneath his chin, and tell him to turn it on, and strike him down. It's a very well thought out. Like, he has been planning this. And I think the other thing that was real interesting is that it's like I was wondering at the end of episode 5 if he knew that was Osha. He totally knew that was Osha. 100% knew it was Osha.
Yeah. Because she didn't have the mark on her forehead.
Right. So he must have, checked that out. And yeah. She was making sure all the weapons were disarmed.
Oh, my wife. Anyway.
I was scared to check the comments, and I did anyway. Okay. But yeah,
some other channels.
But this whole conversation, I went back and I watched it again today, and I wanted to watch it from the aspect of really keying in on what he was saying. And he was using very emotional words with her, very pulling words at her, things that you could tell just the communication between the two of them, the nonverbal communication was fantastic. The reaction in her eyes when he would say certain things, when we were Padawans, getting tossed aside, and getting her to admit that she failed as a Jedi.
Yeah.
All of that. The FSF podcast, all nerdy, sometimes dirty. Well, that's going to be the new slogan at this point.
Well,
but yeah. So I think if you go back, if you haven't really paid attention to this whole section, the first 10 minutes of this episode, go back, rewatch it again from that perspective, and really pay attention to what Kymir is saying to Osha. It puts a lot of weight on this episode, and you start to begin to understand that my theory is that he wants Osha to be the Acolyte, and I think she is the Acolyte of the series. So that's one of my theories. I have another one for the end of this episode, but
okay.
But that might, I kind of felt that way at the end of episode 5, is that, so he's giving up on May. He wants Osha. Osha has something that is similar to him, and throughout the course of this episode, we really see him really dive in on that. He really keeps pushing that button about the importance of the power of 2.
Yeah.
And using words from her background that I think would register with her.
Yeah.
And one more thing before we move on to the next slide. One of the other things that he says in this episode that really made me kind of key in into something he said in episode 5, and the reason why I think that he was a Padawan at some point, not only with what he says to her about, when we were younglings, but also the comment that he makes to Master Saul in episode 5, when Saul says to him, "Who are you?" He says, "Don't you remember?"
Right.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden I'm going, oh, he was a youngling. Yeah.
I mean, the initial reaction from most people was oh, wait, yeah, I just saw you 2 episodes ago. You were the guy selling poison. But yeah, I think you're right. There is something deeper there. There's more
a tie-in.
beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
Which we will find out next week, but we'll wait and see.
I don't think we're going to get all the answers till episode 8. I'll be honest with you.
Probably not. And I like that.
They are horse and carroting this thing. They are just putting it right out in front of our nose and dragging us along. And I do like that they are dragging it out. I do like that this story is being told in the way it is.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to point out, and the reason I added this picture here is that there's a duality between the twins. We see it a lot in this show. And at the same time that May is walking up behind Saul with a knife, Osha is trying to sneak out behind Kymir with a knife. And it's at the same time they're going back and forth in the screens. And I just think it's really interesting, the duality of the twins and what we're seeing here. So
yeah, the duality of the 2 different organizations too, which I think we're going to get into in a few minutes. It's kind of interesting.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
But yeah, that was just a quick thought. Nothing nothing really much more on that one other than the fact that I thought it was very interesting, the fact that they kept going back and forth, panning back and forth between the two, and they were both trying to accomplish the same thing, sneak up on somebody with a knife to kill him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I'm in a bad signal area. I need to restart my phone and try again.
That's pretty much what that scene is right there.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting that he uses the code word, emergency code 0.
Yeah, what is that? I didn't get a chance to look that up.
That is a High Republic novelization code.
Really?
And so yeah, they're drawing that in from the High Republic novelizations. Yeah, and so it's kind of interesting that they use that because that allowed, it was just a nice little tie-in from the books to the TV show.
Yeah,
considering that, you know, what we've got going on here. So it's not a huge deal, but it is kind of nice that there's these little details that they're taking and pulling in, and so that there's a tie-in between the books and the video.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, emergency code 0 is a signal sent out that if a ship were to receive the signal, they were to immediately divert from its current task and assist.
Yeah, emergency backup. Yeah. You drop everything. It's like a code blue in a hospital. They raise code blue. Everybody drops what they're doing. They all go to help out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's here reporting the A. I got this code. B. My entire team is dead. Everybody's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. But he has to go restart his ship's computer because
sometimes you just got to turn it off and turn it back on again to see if it works.
Right. Fact. Two things in this episode got factory resets. Yeah, because Sol done screwed up and got his crew squished. I mean, you're not wrong.
It's not the first time, I think.
But you can see here in this shot though that he's hitting the button, he's getting ready to reset it, and he is taking it really hard.
Yeah,
that his crew is 86th.
Yeah, there's a lot of anger in that Jedi in the moment. A lot of loss.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you can tell he's feeling it. He's you know, for a Jedi who aren't supposed to give way to their emotions and all these different things, Saul has several times throughout the course of these episodes given way to his emotions. Mm-hmm. He's more an emotional Jedi. He's which also makes him what the Korean Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon was willing to give into his emotions and all these different things. And there's a lot of similarities in my mind between Saul and Qui-Gon. Although I still think that Saul did something that was a little sus, and we got to figure out what that is.
Yep.
We still don't know what secret he's hiding at this point. We just know that he is carrying the weight of guilt for something, and it's eating at him. It's very clearly eating at him.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it seems like the Jedi are the ones with the secrets and the Sith are the ones telling the truth.
Yeah, the Sith so far, and we can't really say that Kymir is a Sith. He says you might call me a Sith,
right?
But we don't have a determination yet that he is in fact a Sith.
Yeah,
but he's doing Sithy things. He is Sith-like, but he seems to be the one being like, "Hey, forthright. Here's what's going on. This is what's happening. This is how I'm going to do it." He's like laying out the plan in front of them. Here's what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So if you stop me if you can, type of thing.
Right.
The Sith aren't the bad guys. So far, they're not the bad guys. It does seem like that there's some naughtiness on the other side where they're supposed to be not naughtiness.
Because historically, the Sith always tell the truth. Where were the lies?
Right. The thing is, they don't necessarily always. Well, I don't know that they always tell the truth, but they're also more willing to tell the truth, or at least the truth that they tell is from a certain point of view.
Well, you compare in the original trilogy. Hey, so this guy murdered your father. No, he is your father. Yeah, sure. We were training you to kill him without telling you who he really was.
Right.
But,
That's the Jedi. Yeah. And the
exactly.
Sith, yeah. To quote Wreck-It Ralph, just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are bad guy. Yeah.
Thanks, Zangief.
Exactly. It's good to know that we have not gone another week without a Zangief quote. It's important that stays. But I would like to go from Saul's dismay and the pain, the hurt, the anger that he's feeling right here in this to quite literally the MVP of the episode. My man Basil.
Oh, Basil.
I love this little dude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. I love the fact he's running around with the pip, the head of the pip trying to fix it and
Pip. Yeah.
The little pip bot.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love the little growly thing that he does.
Yep.
When he has May cornered in the room and he goes and like attacks her leg for a second.
Mm-hmm.
It just that whole part made me laugh. I laughed out loud between him attacking her leg, and I wasn't sure if he was attacking it at first, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I was like, down boy. And then the pip shooting the oil at May's face. I thought that was between the two. I thought it was pretty funny. I was like, yeah.
Speaking of Pip,
yes,
the coldest thing I've seen May do so far, killing Jedi, that's fine. She factory resets Pip
with like a Control-Alt-Delete. It was just like,
yeah, like, okay, I can't deal with you. We're just going to do a factory reset, and then you're going to be a good boy.
Yeah, that was cold-blooded.
Yeah, I mean, sure they do it. They do it off screen. I don't have to see it happen.
Right. Yeah, and his little scurry through the vents to get to Saul. Yeah, He's just a cool little dude. I wish there was a translation so we could understand what he was saying, but his translator has a broken neck.
Yeah.
And is lying in a heap somewhere on Kofar. So, yeah, there's that. But yeah, I still wish that there was and I wish the same thing for Chewie too, when he does his growls that, somewhere in the closed captioning there would be Chewie said,
Yeah, that'd be cool, but it's also kind of fun the way it is.
I get that. Yeah, I do.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. And I'm okay with him not having the translation because it's been set throughout the course of history in Star Wars. We don't know exactly what R2 says, but you understand what R2 said.
Yeah,
more or less. You don't know what Chewie said, but you kind of get the idea of what Chewie said. Yep. And it's the same thing with Basil here. You don't exactly understand what he said, but you got the idea of what he said. So it works. I would just like to, I don't know, just me being me and would like to see more. I would watch an entire spinoff just about Basil. I don't know that I could watch an entire spinoff, but I wouldn't mind him being a little bit more of a major character, much like a toddler.
So I'd like to point out at this point in the timeline, Chewie is alive. We could have a Chewie Basil buddy cop show where nobody understands anything. We just have to infer from other people's reactions.
Yeah,
exactly. It would be like one of the best things ever.
That was my horrible impression of both. You're welcome. And that will only be on the internet forever. So,
once I get a hold of it.
Exactly. That's also what as soon as I was done doing it, I was also worried about that. So, but let's talk about this because
Vernestra.
The Green Lady is sus. Yeah, Vernestra.
Yeah. So she's talking to the senator about we don't want this oversight. We don't want these investigations. She's trying to keep the powers that be away from the Jedi. But why? What's she hiding?
Not saying that Kathleen is not a fan of
Basil and Chewie as Sherlock
and Watson. She meant Watson. She meant Watson.
I would pay to watch that. I would actually buy physical media of that.
Sadly, yeah, I'd be right behind you.
I would buy action figures and T-shirts.
I need I need content now.
I would buy coordinating underoos. Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm 12 again. Get me my underoos.
Oh,
But I do think it's interesting in this scene here when we see her talking to the hologram. As soon as her Padawan comes in the room, that hologram gets shut down. She doesn't want her
Yeah.
Padawan to know anything about what's going on.
right.
She's got different things going in different areas, and she's hiding something over here. She's hiding something over here. I can't say that I disagree with Kathleen. She is sus. There's some stuff going on with her.
She's hiding stuff from the Jedi. She's hiding stuff from the Senate. She's hiding stuff from her own Padawan, her own team, probably. What's up?
Yeah, because she's talking with her Padawan. They're talking about having to take off, and the simple fact that she doesn't like to go. She wants to go to Kofar now to see what happened to Sol's party, and she doesn't like lights. She doesn't like to travel light speed.
Right. Because in the novels, I haven't read them all, so I had to look this up. But in the New High Republic novels, she gets visions while she's in hyperspace. And Jedi don't trust visions because you can't rely on those.
Right.
Always in motion is the future. And so, she gets these weird ideas that kind of stick with her. And, nobody likes that.
Especially if they're visions of her doing things wrong.
Right.
And the results of her being the sneaky one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we go back to the episode where everybody got their pants in a twist with having Ki-Adi-Mundi in the episode. She pulled Sol aside in that episode so Ki-Adi-Mundi could not hear the conversation that she was going to have with Sol about sending out a crew, and everyone else to go find Master Kalnaka on Kofar.
Right.
So she already had a little bit of sus there, and she talked earlier about how the Jedi didn't need to know, the High Council didn't need to know, because they're so busy with trying to keep things away from. She said it would be fuel for the senators who were already looking for a reason to take down the Jedi.
Right.
And then that kind of gets confirmed in the slide that we were just talking about previously with this guy. And he's talking about how the Jedi are, possibly going to be in trouble with the Senate right now, and everything that's happening. And so, so she's got a game of moving shells here.
Yeah, really, I think what this is, it's the beginning of the Jedi having to answer to the Senate, like we see in the prequels.
Right.
Tying them to that without their own, independent authority, so that. They get tied in that, they get wrapped up in politics, they stop focusing on the Force and actually helping people, and that's what brings about their downfall.
Right. And I think one of the things, the strong storylines of this whole series so far is that we're seeing the Jedi's decline to where we get them in the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
At the Phantom Menace, they are during that whole section of the start of the Clone Wars, the Jedi are at the bottom rung of trustability. The public don't trust them anymore. The Senate doesn't trust them anymore. There's all these issues. They've gone from being the High Republic era respected Jedi, and they've started to slide down. So we are watching from 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace, and we're watching that downward slide. We're seeing all the things that they're doing to get to that downward slide. And so these actions, like what we see here, with Vernestra talking to the senator, with Vernestra talking to her own Padawan and leaving him out of the loop. Because if you think about other Padawans, when they were going to the mission, they would at least give them the basics of what was going on.
Yeah.
And, even Qui-Gon told Obi-Wan that should suffice you for now. He was going to tell him more later, but this is what you need to know right now.
Right.
And she is losing the game of chutes and ladders. It does feel like.
Yeah. And we see that tradition of dishonesty continue, like into Clone Wars, even when the Jedi finally find out, hey, wait, the Sith set up the clone army for us. Don't tell the Senate.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this is where it
Yoda
starts.
Yoda says that we have to a cover up there shall be.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so we end up next scene. We're in Kofar, and we got lumps everywhere, lumps of Jedis.
Lumps, they're lumps. They might be dead.
Oh, they're
that's
dead.
right. I'm old.
They're dead. They're definitely dead. Little lumps of Jedi all around the floor.
Yep. And Vernestra mentions that obviously some dark Jedi of great power has done this because they're not looking for a Sith. They don't think the Sith. They don't think that the Sith exist at this point. They've been gone for 900 years. And let's be honest here, just because your lightsaber is a red blade doesn't mean it leaves red marks on the tunic it goes through.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it's just going to leave a burn mark.
Yeah.
So it's going to leave some ash behind. I do think it was interesting, and it was sucked that so they started scanning the field, and I'm like, did you really have to? And I didn't want to put it up on the screen because it made me sad. But did you really have to do a close up of Jackie like
emotional damage?
Oh yeah. Kathleen, she did say something about someone of great power. She knows that there's somebody here.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I don't know is if I think she knows that something's happening. I think she knows that there is a bad guy doing bad things, but I don't know if she knows it's Chimere or if she thinks it's May doing something more. Because Saul never reported back after their encounter with May that there was somebody else. At least I don't recall him ever telling Vernestra that there was the possibility of somebody else until they get to Kofar. That's when they have confirmation that there is somebody else, that that Chimere exists.
Right.
Kathleen says, I think she knows it's Chimere. She might. Yeah, that's the thing. That's one of the cool things about this is that we're not entirely sure what she knows, what she doesn't know. But there's definitely more to her story than what we've seen so far. Because and now looking back, and here's the other thing. This is why I said when people were complaining about episodes 1, 2, and 3 and losing their goddamn minds over episode 4, why it was so important to go later on in the series, because things are happening now which are reflecting back into previous episodes, which are helping explain things. The meal's getting cooked fully, and we're gonna be able to take a look back and go, oh, that's what's going on. That's what's happening.
Yeah. It's like any other mystery or similar type story where it's the last 15 minutes where all these clues suddenly coalesce.
Right.
Well, that's why he killed that person in that place with that locate. With
right.
That.
Well, and she even makes a comment to Master Saul before they send Saul and the crew off to Kofar that had you come to me, I could have helped you. In other words, I think she was looking to cover up whatever Saul's cover up was from years ago. So she's sus, as the kids would say.
Very sus.
Kathleen says, looking at the bodies, the face she makes the slightly guilty. She knows it's Chimere. She knows what he's capable of. Possibly. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. We don't know for sure, but boy, it sure does look like it very much could be. And then the bugs that attacked everybody else come down after them, and she breaks out the light whip.
Yeah, which was established in the novels. It's not new.
Yeah. It's not new. Yeah. Also, yay, light whips.
But
it's kind of interesting. Now we have 2 episodes to go yet.
Yeah.
And for as much as the light whips were talked about pre-show, like before the show was released,
yeah,
I really thought we were going to get more than a 3-second glimpse of her, snapping at the bug in the sky and putting it away. I was like, oh, I thought for sure we were going to see more of it. Let's see. Kathleen says Disney is pulling a Sarah J. Maas. The last 200 pages make you want to scream. Kendall and Mimi know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, see, I don't know. She might whip it out in the last episode.
Whip it good.
Yep. Because I think I'm guessing all of the footage in the trailers and the previews are from the first 7 episodes. There's some stuff we haven't seen from flashback. Kelnaka attacking whatever the younger Jedi's name was.
That's next episode. I guarantee it.
So that'll be next episode, but I don't think we've seen everything from the last episode, which is great. I hate it when the ending is spoiled in the trailers.
I love the fact that I have ideas of where this is going, but I literally have no hard, fast evidence to say this is for sure what's going to happen in this show.
Right.
I have very good hunch that Osha is the Acolyte. She is the title character.
Yeah.
I the more I see of her and the more especially this episode really made me kind of double down on that in my head. She's the title character. But I don't know if that means that we're going to get an actual Sith in the episode and we're going to see other Sith. Are we going to see a Darth Plagueis in this episode, in this series?
Maybe.
I think that's a strong possibility. I really, really do.
For all we know, Vernestra is Plagueis.
She whips her hair back.
It's a saber back and forth. Be saber back and forth.
And I have that on internet now. Okay, good. Sweet.
Hey, you got to make it even.
So we go from them talking out in the woods to Osha and Chimere back in the cave, and Chimere is fixing his Cortosis helmet.
Yes.
I think there's some really interesting details to talk about when it comes to this helmet.
All right, go ahead. What you got?
Just from his own words. Now he admits that he talks about how it's helpful and useful against lightsabers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the one thing that I didn't quite because I was curious about why he wouldn't take his helmet off before. When Sold said take your helmet off and let me see your face, and he didn't want to. I couldn't understand why he wouldn't take his helmet off, but now we have an understanding because he says in this episode that it's sensory deprivation and kind of blocks out things from the outside. So it's kind of like a bit of a Magneto helmet.
Yeah.
It keeps them from reading his thoughts so they can't go all Charles Xavier on him.
Right. Which I think that's a cool addition, that it absorbs that energy too, not just weapon fire.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting at. That was the neat addition to my head that I was like, oh, so that's why. Okay. Yeah. So it was kind of hinted at in that other episode, but it wasn't specifically said.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice for me to have it specifically said.
Right. Mentioning that it's like a sensory deprivation thing. And I mean, we do get a peek inside the helmet later, but that means that he was fighting all of those Jedi blind and partially deaf.
That's scary.
If you've ever worn a helmet and tried to sword fight, that's hard enough when those are designed for you to maybe be able to see. This is not. So he has absolute trust in the Force in those moments. He's just going with whatever flow is being given off those Jedi to put them into the ground.
So putting on that helmet, he's able to respond to the Force like Kanan did in Rebels, basically, is what we're seeing.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
terrifying.
It is. It's terrifying because he was so blasted good at it.
Yeah.
He wiped out almost an entire group of Jedi, save one.
Yep.
Blind and deaf.
Right. And those Jedi had a hard enough time fighting on unfamiliar terrain with trees that, could tangle up their arms and their robes, making sure they didn't stab each other.
2 ears. Yeah.
Making sure they didn't accidentally stab each other or have their blade deflected into one of their friends. But he's blind and almost deaf in this thing.
Wow.
Just
the more I think about it, the more impressive that becomes.
Yep. He's a scary dude.
Yeah, he is.
He might be the scariest person in Star Wars so far.
Only because they haven't done enough with Darth Vader, but that's a whole nother story for another time.
And we haven't seen Leia really angry yet.
Oof. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, he is amazing. He is one of the best characters that Star Wars has brought out in a long time. And now I like the thought of Kylo Ren,
Yeah.
but he never made me go, oh boy, he's somebody to be scared of. He was a temper tantrum emo
Yeah.
Ren.
He
And so
had a
it's just
chance. Yeah. Go ahead.
they had a chance. It's another thing in the sequel trilogies that wasn't done as well as it could have been. There was there were some hits in the sequel trilogies. There's
Yeah.
also some very large misses. If we're being honest, that's fine. It's fair as a fan to point out the hits and the misses.
Yep.
As long, it's critical feedback is fine. Crapping on the show just because you can is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kylo is an emo teenager with a glow stick. You're
Right.
not wrong.
After Last Jedi, he could have like ascended to dark side greatness and been a really awesome villain, but they fell back on Palpatine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not impressed.
Yeah. I was really hoping somehow Space Satan returned. But yeah, that's
Captain Sparkle Fingers.
Yeah.
That's
my
on the
name
internet
for him.
too.
That's my name for him. Uncle Palpy. But yeah, so there's that. And the episode winds up with Osha putting on the helmet.
Which I love this, especially because of how Return of the Jedi was originally theoretically going to end.
Right.
That George had written it at one point that at the end, Luke just picks up Vader's helmet and puts it on and becomes the next Dark Lord. But then decided to write the happy ending.
Yeah.
So
everybody likes the.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool
kumbaya ending.
Yeah.
So
maybe not an intentional reference, but this one made me think of.
Yeah, that's cool. I had not thought of that.
Yeah.
With this, I just thought how this is really setting us up nicely for episodes 7 and 8. We're going to see how she becomes the Acolyte because of what the flashback is and what happened back on Brendok all those years ago with Saul and the witches and everything else.
Yep.
Something happened there, and I think then we're going to get a flash forward from that flashback into how Chimere's beginnings, and I think we have to have those two things resolved before the end of this season, so that we have an understanding of where we're going and what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. We were talking about how the Jedi aren't exactly the good guys, and the Sith aren't exactly the bad guys. You have the two sisters, and Osha with Chimere. He's just go ahead, try it, do what you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whereas Saul is okay. I'm going to strap you down, and you're gonna listen to me. Dang it!
Right.
That doesn't exactly scream good guy energy.
No, it doesn't.
Which is why it's easy to fall for the dark side.
Yeah.
To think the Jedi are the bad guys, because every once in a while they do something that's kind of stupid.
Yeah. And I want to say that the two actors in this show that have really gone above and beyond are Chimere's actor and Master Soul's actor. Those two they have both been just absolutely phenomenal throughout this series, setting up the storylines and everything else. And the actress who plays May and Osha, I didn't like her the first couple episodes. I thought she was kind of ho-hum about things, but I think that she's really settled into this duality of characters nicely as the season has gone along. And I think that we're getting to see the aspects of both of those characters a little bit better, which helps me appreciate the work that she put into those characters. So I'm appreciating that a little bit more as we go. But
yeah, I can agree with you on that.
So anyway, all right, theory time. I have theories. Yep. I have theories.
These are good Star Wars theories, not that guy.
No, we don't talk about that guy. All right. Anyway, here we go. So we have the one shot of the whip getting used, and as you look at the whip, it's got a really, as whips do when they're getting used. If you ever watch Indiana Jones, you're going to have a curvature to that whip as it goes, and it might even lead a curved mark where it hits.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's an entirely a possibility that the curvature of that whip is equal to the curvature of the scar on Chimere's back.
Yep. I can see that.
So I don't know who his master was. I don't know if it was Saul or if his master was Vernestra. But something happened at the Jedi Temple that both of them know about in regards to Chimere.
Yeah.
Now, whether it was her whip and Saul used it, or it was her whip and she used it, and Saul was there, or something happened. Yeah, because Green Lady is evil. She gives me the evil vibes. She just, I don't trust her. I think that, she is the Judas in this company.
And Chimere gives indications that he's older than he seems.
Yeah, he's been around a while.
So, going with that theory, Vernestra is also older than she looks. She's
right
over 100 years old. I forget exactly how old, but anyway. So, if they figured out the dark side thing about extending your lifespan, like Plagueis was allegedly working on in Legends,
right,
then he's using that, and she might be using that to extend their lifespans. And she's infiltrated the Jedi.
Right. Yeah. Which, it's a great theory. I like it. Now there's going to be some fanboys out there who are going to get all butthurt about it. Like, you can't convince me that. Actually, you can't convince me that all these Jedi aren't going to sense a Sith that close to him. Watch the prequel trilogies again.
Yeah.
Palpatine sat in a room with 8 Jedi, including Mace Windu and Master Yoda, and they had no clue that he was a Sith.
Yeah.
So
they were like, well, only the Dark Lord would know we have a problem. He's right there. Next room over.
Literally across the table from you. Literally across the table. So that's entirely a possibility. If Vernestra is a Sith, which could be, and I don't see why she couldn't be at this point with everything that's kind of happening and going on. I'm like, yeah, that's a distinct possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Leslie
wouldn't sense it anyway.
Yeah, Leslie Headland did say there are 2 Sith in this show.
There are 2, and even when Chimere came floating down out of the sky, Saul wasn't the first one to sense it. He did not sense the danger of the Sith there.
Right.
So, yeah, we're not saying, but we are saying that there's something going on here.
Right.
The extent of it has to be, I'm sure we'll get explained in the last 2 episodes, but there's some pretty cool stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And I would still love to hear Master Allen's thoughts on the fights. And
absolutely.
And probably the week after that.
Exactly. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get him. I'm going to reach out to him and get a post Acolyte wrap up with him. See if we can get him on for that.
That'd be cool.
And see his thoughts on those. So, yeah. And then there's one more thing that I want to point out because, and we were talking about this pre-show, that when we hear and see certain things in Star Wars, things that are keys or cues to other things, those are called Easter eggs. And we get a lot of Easter eggs in almost every episode, which is great. There's all these callbacks and things that are cues to other shows, other characters. Even with Osha in this episode, her outfit was an Easter egg to Rey. Yeah. The gray suit with the exposed shoulders. It was almost, item for item. So there's a lot of, Star Wars has a lot of duality and all these Easter eggs and callbacks. But one of the biggest ones is that last week's episode, John, what song did we hear? What music did we hear?
It was Kylo Ren's theme.
Exactly. And you know what we heard again this week? That's right. The Kylo Ren's theme again played, but this time during the credits after the closure of the scene when we see the mask and it goes to the credits. It's Kylo Ren's theme. So yeah, there's some strong reason to believe that Chimere is either the first Knight of Ren or it's just a Knight of Ren. So,
or is he giving that title to Osha because, like the Dread Pirate Roberts, it's like, well, I'm tired of this. I'm going to give this to the next person. We'll just kill off all the crew and move on.
I didn't hear Black Parade. You didn't hear the ding.
Yeah, where's my G chord?
But yeah, so it's just something to pay attention to. We're seeing some really cool Easter eggs and hints coming along through these episodes. And if you don't believe me that those things are happening, we are big fans of Screen Crush. They have an awesome Easter egg episode. It's amazing how fast they're able to get those done and put out. But yeah,
that's went up like an hour ago.
Yeah,
I missed it.
Yeah. So Screen Crush has an awesome Easter egg episode. So check that out. And
I've been digging Generation Tech.
Yeah, he's pretty cool too.
Does this great breakdowns of different aspects of the show. It's wonderful.
And I love the fact that Generation Tech is willing to be critical. He doesn't crap on anything.
No.
But he's willing to be critical and say, I like this, I don't like that. I like this, I don't like that. So that's cool. So we I think John and I both strongly recommend that you guys check out Generation Tech and Screen Crush if you haven't already. So Kathleen says, John, I need you to wrap up. The kid just said, I have an idea and started putting gloves on.
Okay, but does she have access to fire?
That is your child. And on that note, somebody gave me fire. Still one of my most favorite TikTok clips I've ever seen in my life.
We might try
that is literally my children. The one sitting there just waving, and then the other one running through, somebody gave me fire. Anyway, we can talk about that later. On that note, boys and girls, kids and cadets, thanks for checking us out. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It does us a lot of good, and you guys are going to get access to some really, really cool interviews coming up. I did buy sparklers.
I know that's why you bought them.
Oh, I love it. All right, guys. Goodbye.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.